Welcome everyone to MailFuzz TV. I am Peter and today I'm going to be talking about the Twilight Zone from the 1980s. This is Season 2, Episode 5. It's called The Toys of Caliban. So spoilers for the episode as always. And that's right, I gave one title because this is only one story, this episode. I triple checked this to make sure that something weird hadn't happened. But apparently episodes 5, 6, and 7 of Season 2 are all just single stories that filled a half-hour block, like the original Twilight Zone, as opposed to 2 or 3 stories filling up the other block. So there's a few of these half-hour episodes in a row, and then it's back to, I think, episode 8, we're back onto the format that we've had. So yeah, kind of weird, this show, in terms of, like, Season 2 being much shorter than Season 1, and then you've got this weird, like, episode format changing here, but regardless, that does make it a bit simpler to talk about. I don't have to worry about dancing around different stories. This one is written by George R.R. Martin, although it's based on a story by Terry Matz. And I don't usually bring that up, but I'll mention it here because it's George R.R. Martin, and people probably care about the fact that he's involved with this. This is a very interesting episode to talk about because it delves into some territory which sometimes is a bit of a warning sign for me. Very quickly in this episode we realize that I don't know if you call him the main character, but certainly one of the main central characters of the story is mentally disabled, right? And I always kind of like brace myself whenever I realize a story is going to have a character like that, because it's always a concern, and especially when you're going back to the 1980s or you know, some previous era where maybe you're expecting them to be less sensitive about subjects like that. But I do typically find that, like, okay, there better be a good reason for this, otherwise I'm going to maybe be a little bit like side-eyeing the way it's presented and the way the character's performed and that kind of thing. So you know, it's one of those things where, like, I was kind of like looking for the justification for why we're doing this, and why isn't it just you know, like, I think it's meant to be relatively young, but why not just have a younger child fill this role? Because it's, you know, it's 2 elderly parents and a sort of a child with these disabilities is kind of the setup of the episode. I will say though that I think by the end of the episode I kind of understood in multiple ways why they went in this way with this story. It is justified by the content of the story, because I mean, first up, like, some of the themes that it's talking about someone needing special needs and how it's hard to sort of like explain those special needs sometimes to the system, and kind of the burden that puts on the parents. That's definitely a theme here, so it makes sense that you have a character like this. But then the other thing, the more supernatural side of the episode, is that even a young child would learn from mistakes in a way that this character does not, and it kind of makes his disability, make his supernatural ability very risky. It's very dangerous because he can't quite control it in the same way that maybe someone else would be able to. Now, someone else with this ability, that I'm about to explain what it is, but this supernatural ability he has, someone else with it could be very dangerous if they wanted to be very bad with it, but typically most people would probably try and think with some care and learn the rules of it and try and implement it safely. What is that supernatural ability? The main premise of this episode, that is the fact that he can make something up. Toby, the character, can conjure any item he wants, as long as he's looking at a picture of that item. And that's introduced at the start because he's looking at this catalogue of toys and he just makes the toys appear. And that's it. He's got the toys. We see him also manifest donuts, and the parents know about this ability. They literally, to give him donuts after dinner, right? And they say, eat your dinner and we'll let you have donuts for dessert. All they do is get out a photograph of some donuts, and that's what they're expecting him to use. Now, part of the story here is that he's starting to be able to do it without looking at the images, which is kind of scaring the dad, actually. He's very concerned. He's like, wait, we keep this in line and we control what he's conjuring by like making sure he doesn't see anything that would be dangerous to bring into the world, because they can't control him or stop him from doing it if he sees something. And we get some examples later on of how that's went bad in the past, but you kind of get some like ideas later where he sees the front of a magazine and the space shuttle's on it, and you're like, wait a minute, if he conjures the space shuttle and it appears like 5 feet in front of him, if he's indoors, that's going to wreck the building he's in. And that doesn't happen in the episode, but you can sort of immediately start to see how very quickly this could be extremely dangerous, and why they're so strict about letting him look at comic books and magazines and watch TV, because if he sees something, he can just make it plop in front of him. And that could be something that's, dangerous, a grenade, a nuclear weapon, anything. So you gotta get, as the episode's going on, like why the parents are so protective, why they don't really let him go anywhere or do anything, because it is kind of not only just for his own good, but for kind of everyone's own good around him. It was hard not to think a little bit about The Good Life, the episode of the original show, which was also remade in the movie, of the kid who can make people disappear. This is kind of the flip of that, where he's making things appear. So you can kind of draw a parallel between those two stories, even though I think this is a very different, because it's something that's happening by accident, and the child himself isn't this little monster like the kid in that story is, where he's like kind of the villain that you fear, especially in that original episode, as opposed to the movie version, which was maybe a little bit more hijinksy. This character, yeah, there's like a fear of what might happen, but he's never intentionally trying to hurt anyone. He's never doing anything out of malice. He's never trying to harm anyone. So because of that, you never like dislike him. All you have for him is sympathy. Pretty much, and you have some sympathy for the parents who clearly are struggling, and there's a lot of stress resulting in this, and a lot of the turmoil comes out of the fact that he gets kind of a little bit sick and they have to go to the hospital, and that's where he's maybe, they're having to make sure he's not exposed to anything that he shouldn't be seeing, because it could cause a lot of trouble. But this also means that this lady, I don't know if she said social services, but something akin to social services shows up and starts to ask why he's not in school, why he's not, in a program or something, for someone with his condition. Also, obviously, it's the 1980s, so they are throwing the R word around a lot. It's never really said with malice. It's never meant to be an insult in this episode. It's just the word they're using to describe what he is. But warning in case you're particularly sensitive to hearing that. But it's it's more of the time thing, and it really wasn't meant with any kind of it's not been used as a degrading word here. So yeah, first off, the doctor they see in the hospital is an actor who ended up on Babylon 5, and amusingly played the doctor on Babylon 5, and he's played a doctor here, which made me laugh a little bit. Is like, this all you play? But yeah, Franklin from Babylon 5 is the doctor here in this episode, just a minor detail. But yeah, so I like the, I mean, it goes to some dark places. That's the other thing about this story, is that the ending is a very, very dark ending, a very sad ending. It escalates once they get back from the hospital, because Toby is able to manifest the magazine that he wasn't allowed to have at the hospital in his room. So and it's like a medical magazine, and he's looking at stuff. And the really dark thing here, and this is right after the parents have been talking about how can we somehow like have a babysitter for a night and go and see a movie or something, because we've not done that in years. And these two parents are quite old. They're at least in their like mid to late 60s, and it does beg the question, what happens when they inevitably pass away? Well, we see one of them pass away very quickly here, because the mum goes into the room and Toby's looking at the medical book, and you see blood on his hands and you wonder what he's holding, and then she sort of clutches her chest and like goes down and just drops dead. And it's very clear that he conjured his mother's heart like out of her chest. Like he just made it appear in front of him, and obviously if your heart just disappears, then you're going down. So it's this really tragic thing where he accidentally killed his mother, and the father's left and grieving, and the social services lady comes over and obviously doesn't understand what's happening. It looks cruel that they're not letting him see pictures of anything, and that's what he wants, because that seems harmless to anyone else. That would be harmless, but he's very adamant, no, his son cannot see anything. And when she refuses to kind of accept this and sort of says, hey, like there might be grounds here to have your son taken away because this seems cruel and whatnot, he's like, okay, fine, it's maybe time you should see what you can do. And he pulls out a book and he goes to a page that has a photograph of a knife, and Toby conjures the knife and it appears in front of them. And she gets pissed off here. She doesn't get wowed by it. I mean, she sort of jumps up, but she's like more like feeling threatened that one, there's a knife now in this guy's hands. But also she's like, oh, so you're just doing like a magic trick to scare me? And he's like, okay, yeah, here's the book. You pick a page and give it to him. and she opens a page that's got a suit of armor and shows it to Toby, and this suit of armor appears behind her and then like crumbles because no one's in it. It just kind of falls to the ground, and it freaks her out, and she realizes kind of the predicament here. And this is the part that really got nasty in terms of like the idea of like some of the things that he can do by accident, is that the dad explains that Toby once saw a dog on TV before they got rid of the TV. This is like what taught them it was dangerous to have the TV in the house, is that Toby wanted a dog, so he conjured the dog. But seemingly he can't conjure living people. The dog just showed up dead. And he forgot that he did this, so he did it multiple times. And he says that the back garden is completely just like there's dead dogs buried all over that garden from what he's conjured. This is kind of the dark side of this, and the like, because I was thinking, like, because of the example with the space shuttle on the cover, I was like, oh, I was thinking of like him conjuring something big and how much devastation that could cause, or potentially something like a weapon. Instead, this was like, you know, even more sinister than that in a way, which is like, you know, some bringing an animal back as a sort of zombie corpse, or not even a zombie, just a corpse. But and the payoff to this is at the end of this scene, he looks up and there's a photograph of his mum on the wall, and the dad realizes what he's looking at, and he starts saying, "No, Toby, no, no." And yeah, before he can finish like trying to stop his son, the corpse of the mum like appears like on the chair behind them and is decomposing, and it's very nasty. And this is when the social services lady runs out. This is where it really started to click for me, this episode. And it's not that it was bad beforehand, but I think this moment of like, oh, just how on edge like these two parents, and now just the dad on his own, have to be at all times because of all the trouble. It's kind of like what you hear about almost like just parents who have like their first kid, and like how you have to be aware of what the baby's doing the whole time, and that there's this constant need to make sure the baby's not trying to do anything dangerous. It's kind of like a more even heightened version of that. And you know, thematically, like I don't know if it's necessarily saying how poorly the system is to take care of someone who is different. I think that's definitely part of it in here. And one of the reasons why the dad's still adamant that he doesn't want the son to leave the house is that, well, you know, if people catch wind of what he can do, they're just going to want to experiment on him and use them for their gains. They're going, you know, the people in charge are going to be like, okay, we're going to cut into him. We're going to have him conjure things for our purposes, even horrible things. And he'll just say yes because he's, you know, you can manipulate him effectively. So it gets into some of that and kind of this protective, but also at the same time, like this has been a burden on him and his wife, and they are living kind of this almost imprisoned life of looking after him, and it's this constant 24/7 job that is so soul draining, and it's just, you know, everyone in the process, and you know, and Toby is living this life where he's confused and doesn't understand what he's done to his mom, or what's going to happen if this happens or that happens, and he's frustrated why he keeps being told he's not allowed to look at pictures because that's all he wants to do. But then we know why he can't, because he might conjure something that's very, very dangerous, and it's why the only thing they give him is a book of toys, because then all he can conjure is toys. So yeah, I mean, I think it's getting at some interesting concepts here. And the idea that it's like there's maybe no perfect solution. There's better solutions than what's in the episode for sure, but like everyone has different ideas of what to do here, and it feels like maybe there's no hope. And the sad ending of the episode is that the dad kind of decides that, okay, that woman's definitely coming back, maybe with the police to finally take him away. Our life as we know it's over. And he pulls out another book. And we don't see what they're looking at first, but he just sort of talks about the pretty orange and things like that. And I kind of guessed where this was going, which is that he's going to make him conjure an explosion. And sure enough, like the house, you know, blows up, and just in time for the lady and the cops to arrive and see it on fire. And so it's this tragic ending where he's made his son conjure something that would kill them both. And yeah, that's the bitter ending of the Toys of Caliban. I like the sense of tragedy to this. I like the weight of it. When I had a quick glance around, because there's not a lot of places to find opinions on these 80s Twilight Zone episodes. They're not as talked about as the original show is. But I saw some critiques of like the parents and how they treated Toby. I can kind of see where they're coming from, but they're also kind of on edge because they're scared of what he's going to conjure up, and it's kind of this, it's almost like they've been running on a treadmill for however long Toby's been alive and how much it's taken out of them. So I don't think that they are monstrous towards Toby. I think they're obviously they do need help, and maybe the biggest mistake they ever made is not letting another person, a couple of people know what, show them what he can do, so that more people can help out, and it takes a village, if you will. I don't know, but maybe that's the biggest mistake they ever made. But like, it's the sort of thing where even when the lady whose job it is to see when a child needs help because their living situation is detrimental to them or unsafe or whatever the case, she's completely stun-locked and doesn't really have an answer for this, but still think, and she's right that he still needs help, or they still need help as a family. Like, she is right about that, but at the same time, the process that she's about to put him through is not going to go well, right? And that's not to say that I think the dad made the right choice here at the end of the episode, but he clearly believed that this was, the end of their life as they knew it. And even if like he doesn't conjure something up front or soon that's going to be harmful and have negative consequences, he's just scared that his son's going to be used or be a lab rat because they want to try and recreate this in some way. So yeah, I mean, it's taking that idea of calling someone special, but in this case making him literally have a special power. So you can kind of see what it's doing, and I think it's definitely the most interesting episode of season 2, right? I don't know if I'm ready to say that I really, really like loved it per se, but I think it did a good job of setting up the ideas so that, I think that feeling when he reached for the photograph of his now dead mother, my heart sank because I realized what that meant was about to happen, and I hadn't considered of bringing someone dead back. But she doesn't come back to life because that's how he remembers her. She just comes back as the corpse that she is. And it's that moment where the episode set it up well enough that you get that pit in your stomach because you know what's about to happen. That's good writing, right? So the episode is well paced, it's well set up, and it gets to that point, and it's effective when it does. And the ending is a gut punch. And maybe the most effective ending they've had, certainly this season of 80s Twilight Zone, which has definitely been a bit of a mixed bag as far as the stories have gone. So yeah, I think I'm generally positive here. I think it's it's a tough story, it's a tough subject to kind of like get into, and there's maybe a lot of like nuance to actually discussing this topic, and probably more even since it aired in a lot of ways, where maybe a better understanding of certain things and some of these topics and how we discuss them. But it's it's a tough one, but ultimately it's the most affecting episode of the season. Has a couple of really strong moments towards the end, and the ending itself is very much kind of hard hitting. And it's nice to feel the hard hit. Like it's one thing to have like a downer ending. It's another thing to actually feel the impact of it because it's actually told its story well enough that you feel the sadness of it. So yeah, probably the best episode of the season so far, I would say. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Toys of Caliban. And I think I forgot to mention at the start of this is a Patreon-sponsored review, so thank you very much to Cindy for making the pick. I was too concerned with explaining the format change. But that is this episode of the 80s Twilight Zone, and I'll be back next time with episode 6. So let me know what you thought of this one. If you've seen it in the comments below, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Helps out a bunch if you do. And of course, if you want to support all the stuff, all the shows, and both this channel and MailFuzz Movies, you can do that over on Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, and get some bonuses for your doing so. But that is me. Thank you very much for joining. I do appreciate it. Keep watching TV in the Twilight Zone.